and I can see all the stuff coming up on the side. So good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning. Once again, we are going to be talking about the spirit world. Sees all, doesn't it? No, it does, right? So first of all, before we begin, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is standing to my right side. I'd like to say good morning to Chris, who is wherever you are, in the freezing cold in Vermont. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. How's everybody today?
Everybody, are you talking to me or them?
Oh, I want to hear in the room how everybody is too.
Me too. I really want to hear how everybody is. So I decided that something happened to me yesterday, and I was having a conversation. I do believe, Chris, it was with you, and I remembered a couple of days ago. I was thinking, how long is it? It must be 22 or 23 years since I wrote my first book, The Eagle and the Rose, which, as I'm sure most of you know, became a New York Times bestseller. And 22, I'm thinking 22, 23 years ago, and it's still selling, and people are still looking for it, and people are still calling or emailing and saying, how can I get this book? Where can I get this book? And we're getting emails from people saying, I love this book, and so on and so forth. So I actually, I had to get my fingers moving. I had to start counting. Let me see. And the book was actually published in 1996. And for those of you who are really, really quick thinking, you'll realize it isn't 23 years since the book was published. It isn't even 24 years since the book was published. It's 25 years coming up in May. 25 years. For 25 years, that book has been out there. It has traveled all over the world. It has become a bestseller in so many different countries around the world, including the USA. And the impact of the book, The Eagle and the Rose, the impact has been amazing. So I was talking to Chris about this and saying, we should do something, or sort of acknowledge at least as we get closer to the 25th anniversary of the publishing of this book, which is on the 19th of May. Yes, those of you who know me well will say, oh, the 19th of May, isn't that Rosemary's birthday? And you would be right. The book was published on my birthday. The official publishing date was the 19th of May. It was in the stores, excuse me, about 2 weeks before then, but as all publishing people will know, the official publishing date is sometimes different from when the book goes out. So the 19th of May, 25 years ago, coming up on the 19th of May, is the 25th anniversary of the book, The Eagle and the Rose. So Chris actually said to me, Rosemary, did you ever think when you wrote that book that all of this would come about? Did you ever think that you would be on TV shows? And then she said something that sort of really, really made me think. She said, what do you think what advice would you give that young person? Not that I was so young, but you know what I'm saying. What would you have given? What advice would you have given to your young self? And I thought about it, and sitting on my what is it? My table next to me here, I'm sort of thinking, it's really dusty this thing. I'm going to show you a photograph of my very young self. Are you ready for this? This is not a photograph that many people see, really. I'm not sure if it's on Instagram, this photograph. It should be. We should actually put it up, shouldn't we? But here's the photograph of my very, very young, which side shall I do it? On my very young self. There it is. I'm going to see if I can straighten it. I don't know if the light is
yeah, just stay right there.
That is my very, very, very young self. I was 14 years old. Do I need to put it a bit close to the camera like that? There you go. Look at that. And those of you who know my grandson will definitely see the resemblance. Anyway, what advice would I give my 14-year-old self? When I was 14 years old, I was very shy. I rarely spoke to anybody. I was always nervous. I was always wondering, when the next backhander was coming around the corner. I was always wondering, you know, what what was going to happen in my family, how many fights there would be, how many arguments there would be. And for a lot of you who have grown up in that environment, you know that the best thing to do in an environment like that is to keep quiet and hope nobody notices you. Of course, it never works, but still, you try to keep quiet, you try to keep your head down, you try to hope that nobody's going to notice you, because if they notice you, that's when they start to pick on you, or that's when you're in trouble. So what advice, if I were me now, what advice would I give that 14-year-old who was afraid to lift her head up, who was afraid to really be seen? And I think the first piece of advice that I would give that 14-year-old would be, be who you want to be yourself, and learn to love yourself and learn to trust yourself. And I can say I can say with some amount of certainty that is part of the advice that I would have given that 14-year-old, because although my grandson is only just turned 8 years old, but that's the advice I give to him. Lots of different advice. Always stand up to bullies. Don't be intimidated. He's a very shy kid in so many respects, although he chatters away when he's just with us, when he's just with his family, he chatters away and isn't shy at all. But when he meets new people, or if he's in a new environment, he can be a little bit shy, a little bit hesitant, which I actually like about him. But my advice would be always tell the truth, stand up for yourself, and if you make a promise, keep it. Don't make a promise unless you know that you can keep it. And so we thought we'd throw it out there to all of you. If you look at your young self, and you can go back as many years as you like, some of you might want to go back to your childhood, some of you might want to go back to your teenage years, whatever time you want to go back to, in those times when you were just about to, let's say, come off the diving board and shoot out into life. What advice, before you jump off, what advice would you give your young self? We all, in hindsight, can see where we went wrong. In hindsight, we can say, if only I'd done this, or if only I'd done that. But I found that the advice that I was thinking about giving my 14-year-old self is exactly the same advice as I would now give my own self in this moment in time. The advice really actually hasn't changed. It's just that when I was 14, nobody thought to give me that advice. I certainly didn't have the wisdom or the knowledge or the understanding to give me that advice. But the advice would be the same at 14 years old that I would give my 14-year-old self, that I would give myself now. Always be true to who you are, and never doubt that you are special. Never doubt that, you may not be the best person in the world, you may not be the most perfect person in the world, but nevertheless, you are important. And, I think it's necessary for us to tell our children that, and it's necessary for us to tell ourselves that we are just as important as the next person, and the next person, and the next person. There are so many people, I think, in life who, having grown up in tough environments, or even in good environments sometimes, but they have developed a lack of self-worth. They have developed a lack of understanding about who they are and who they could be. There are so many people, even in their 50s and 60s and even in their 70s, people who still are suffering from this lack of understanding of themselves and this poor opinion of themselves, not having very much in the way of self-worth. So this month, in the whole of March, we're going to be talking about how to develop that self-worth, how to understand that we have to grasp it. And in doing that, the first thing we have to do is to look back at our young selves and really think about what advice could we give that young person that would encourage them to value who they are and to understand that they're just as important as the next person is. So, Chris, what advice would you give your young self?
Oh, goodness. Here I am reading everybody else's comments, and I have to come up with one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to talk through this. You were talking about you at your 14-year-old self and nobody telling you these things. I think back to my 14-year-old self who had no confidence, and being my 58-year-old self, I have far more confidence now so that I could believe some of these things that you've already stated. So what would I tell my 14-year-old self? Oh my God, do we have all day? I am enough. You are enough.
I like that. That's good. But
there we go.
telling your 14-year-old self and giving your 14-year-old self that advice, it would be phrased, remember that you are always enough.
There you go.
Because you're telling your 14-year-old self or your 16-year-old self or whoever it is. And I think that, again, I think that's a really good piece of advice, Chris, because that speaks to not having that self-worth or that understanding of our worth when we're kids, and sort of getting a base. I always feel with Reese, we have a responsibility to give him a base, to give him a place to stand, to give him a platform to stand on, and that platform has to be very strong. That platform has to be a platform he can trust, so that when he stands on that platform, he knows that he's not going to fall off, that he can be anything he wants. He can jump up and down on that platform. He can scream and rage on that platform. That platform is going to support him. And I think as parents and grandparents, we have to give our children that solid platform. And this is why, if I could give my 14-year-old self that advice, be enough, be yourself, don't be afraid to be who you want to be. Those things are that solid platform that we can stand on, so that even if we're unsure about what we're doing, even if we're unsure about our next step in life, even if we're unsure about the job that we're going to take or the career that we want to be invested in, even if we're unsure, even if we're nervous, we can stand on that firm platform and know, and absolutely know, that we can do it. If we want to do something badly enough, we have that grounding, that solid platform that we stand on, which helps us to say, yep, I'm nervous, I'm terrified, but I can do this. And this is what we try to teach Reese all the time. Yes, he might be nervous, but guess what? You can do it. You can do it. Yeah. So, all right, Chris, you said there's lots of comments. Why don't we go for those then?
Well, I'm going to pick out the couple that answers the questions right now of what you have just spoken about. So
Okay.
Dean is on.
Okay, Dean.
And
Hi.
Dean would tell his younger self, stay true to your heart.
Good. I like that. I like that advice. But the problem is, you see, Dean, I want you to go a little bit further with this, because we don't always know what our heart is telling us, do we? And at 14 years old, my heart was a nervous wreck. It jumped from all over the place. And my heart actually was believing in the disparagement and the put downs and the look at her, she's too skinny. Look at her, who does she know? She's always crying. Look at her. This, that, and the other. And your heart tends to believe in those things, whether it wants to or not. So I want you to go. I'd like you to dig a bit deeper if you can, Dean. Keep going, Chris.
Shaz says,
Hi,
I would
Shaz.
tell my younger self to listen to my mom much more. I regret being so stubborn. If I could redo our time together, I would spend every second with her that I could, and I would take her advice.
Oh, Shaz, I love that. I do love that. Of course, we know that most 14, 15-year-olds are going to rebel, but yes, boy, that I love that advice. I absolutely love that advice. And I love the fact that you value your mum. I love the fact that you're honoring her in just saying this statement. I love the fact that, isn't it the truth that um, we don't value our parents really until we start to be parents ourselves, or until we get to an age of around, I don't know, sort of 30s or 40s, when all of a sudden we realize, that maybe our mother had a point. Maybe our mother did know what she was talking about. I think it's very hard for us as youngsters to actually value our parents in a way that we will pay attention to them and take notice of them. I suppose it's the curse of the young to think they know everything, isn't it? Um, but I love that. Thank you, Shaz, for that. Keep going, Chris.
Cheryl says, I
Morning,
would tell
Cheryl.
myself to be my own best friend. Don't try to please others, please yourself, and know that you are talented and special.
Oh, I love that too. Oh, we're getting some good stuff coming in here. I love that. That's fantastic. And yes, you know, I think I was talking the other day about, being on my own, and actually, I think at this time in my life is the first time in, it has to be well over 40 years since I've been totally on my own. And by that I mean, there's nobody else in the house. There's no other person coming in. I'm not expecting anyone to come for dinner every day. There's nobody who wakes up in the morning other than me. There's no little creatures running around, um, and sort of being on your own. It can be very daunting, and I know that there are an awful lot of people out there who are afraid of being on their own. However, I am my own best friend, I think, in so many ways. I'm very honest with myself because, as you know, all really good friends will tell you the truth no matter what. And boy, sometimes the truth hurts, doesn't it? But I think that being my own best friend and being and understanding that I'm actually never really alone. Um, I'm able to deal with this. Let's say this, I'm not going to call it a solitary existence, but it is solitary in many ways. I do have friends. I do talk to people. I'm talking to all of you now, so it's not as if I'm sort of isolated on my own. But definitely, I think that as we get older, we do need to consider the idea that we could possibly end up spending hours and hours and hours and hours on our own. And I was talking to Chris the other day. Chris, you're coming into this conversation a lot about the
But I'm
difference.
so lucky.
I was talking to Chris about the difference, my perceived difference in being alone and being lonely. And I have to say that I know that I'm alone. I wake up in the morning. There's nobody else in the house. I'm alone. I woke up yesterday. Actually put my arm out. It's a habit, isn't it? Put my arm out thinking, I don't want to disturb the puppy. Because if I disturb the puppy, that means I've got to get up and let him out and so on and so forth. And last night I was reading, I was on the phone with people, I was doing the various things, and at some point I thought, oh gosh, I've not fed the puppy yet. Sort of hits you. Um, so being alone in that sense, but I don't find that so daunting. Being lonely, I'm not lonely at all because I'm very aware of the spirit world. I'm very aware that the spirit world is around me. I'm very aware when I wake up in the morning that Grey Eagle is somewhere around there waiting for me to wake up or waiting for me to start the day or whatever. So I'm not ever really lonely. And I also am fortunate in that I like my own company. But being lonely and being alone, I personally think of two very different things. We're going to be sort of discussing these things through the month of March because I think it is important for us all to sort of, to talk about these things, to face the possibilities of being alone or being lonely. Um, I don't actually, I'm not, one reason I know I'm not lonely is because I don't particularly crave company. And there are times when somebody turns up and I'm thinking, oh, I really would like to finish this chapter, or I really would like to finish writing what I'm writing. Uh, so let's hear your thoughts on that as well. Do you have any thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, as we were talking about this the other day, for many years, I thought to myself, you can be in a room full of people and still feel lonely. And boy, is that really a lonely feeling. But
Yes.
after our conversation the other day, I absolutely understood where you were coming from, and it gave me a new viewpoint. So there's all kinds of loneliness out there, and especially during COVID, so many
Oh
people
gosh,
have
yeah.
touched that place.
So many people in that situation. But I've always said, for not since I was born. I've always said since I've been a grown up and since I've been in relationships and failed relationships and so on. I personally, my personal idea of the worst kind of loneliness is actually lying in bed with someone and feeling lonely, not being able to reach out, not being able to just hold on to somebody, not being able to just cuddle or just to chatter or to just say good night to or good morning to. The worst, the worst feeling of loneliness for me over my many years has been actually lying in bed with someone uh, who who is just someone you're you can't reach out to. There is nothing there between you anymore, and it's a little bit like you said, Chris, being in a room and feeling lonely. I remember going to a swimming pool years ago. It was absolutely crowded. The swimming pool was absolutely crowded, and people were there. Families were there. People were laughing, joking. People were swimming, so on. And I can remember climbing into the swimming pool in the corner of the swimming pool, feeling desperately, desperately alone and lonely. And there are things we can do to change the way that we feel. And there are things that we can do that, help us to understand that a lot of the time, it's if we're like that, it's our own doing. It's our own fault because I was always too shy to reach out. Even now, I know you think I'm not shy. I'm chattering and talking away, and people find it very odd if I said really rather not go somewhere by myself. In other words, to a party, to a dinner party. There's something a bit daunting, isn't there, about walking into a place where everybody else seems to know everybody and you know nobody. I'll do it, but I don't particularly feel comfortable always doing it. So that's sort of like the dregs of, sort of not having that confidence, not having that self-worth, not having that understanding of just embracing who you are, no matter who it is you are, embracing who you are and loving who you are. Chris, keep going.
So Calla says, hello, Rosemary and everyone. I'd tell myself to be more loving with my mom and dad and appreciate every day with them and hug and kiss more.
Oh, I like that. We have a saying, and I tell my students all the time, if you don't show it, they don't know
They don't know it.
it. See, Chris, you're with me, aren't you?
I am.
How many times have you heard me say that?
Probably still not enough because I'm sure it still slips through from time to time.
Yeah. If you don't show it, they don't know it. And that applies to so many things. If you're upset with someone and you don't show that you're upset and talk about it in a reasonable and sensible way, If you go off and sulk somewhere, so many people don't even know you've gone off to sulk, so it's a complete waste of time. But it mostly applies if you don't show that you love someone, they don't really know whether you do or whether you don't. It's not enough to assume that people know that you love them. You've got to tell them, you've got to show them. You've got to show them in small ways, little ways, tiny little ways. Isn't Mother's Day coming up soon? There's a way to show. Or has it gone already? No, it's coming up,
No,
isn't
for
it?
the US, it's in May, I believe, and then
Right.
Father's Day is June.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think Mother's Day is this month in England. Please, anybody out there who's listening from England, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I think it's somewhere around the 20-something of March, I think, is Mother's Day in England. But don't wait for Mother's Day. Don't wait for Easter. Don't wait for birthdays. Do something nice for the people that you love. Just reach out and do something nice. Remember, if you don't show it, they don't know it. So all of this, we're going to be talking about relationships, and we're going to be talking about the relationship with our own self, which is important, which is why we're starting off with, what advice would you give yourself, your young self? I'm still excited to hear what it is you have to say. And if you don't want to put it on this chat, then you can email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, or email Chris, K-R-I-S, Chris@rosemaryaltea.com, and let us know what advice you would give to your young self. And if we find some good pieces of advice before the end of the month is out, we shall read them. I shall read them out to people. So, Chris, keep going.
Jude says, I would tell my 16-year-old wee self, stop smoking now.
Oh, my darling. There's a whole story behind that. I know there's much more to that piece of advice, but that is a good piece of advice. Yes, absolutely. Yes, let's cut out the bad habits. Stop doing what you think is the grown-up thing to do or the adult thing to do. Just because your friends are doing it doesn't mean that you have to follow suit. I like that a lot. All right, keep going, Chris.
Mikey says, don't put as much effort in a relationship with someone who is fake.
Oh, yes. Well, Mikey, that's a very good piece of advice. I've had so many conversations with people who are very close to me. You got to know, this is great song, Chris. You've got me singing here, because Chris and I, every time Chris heard a phrase, she'd start singing a song which applied to the phrase. But do you know the song "Know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em"?
Yes, Kenny
You
Rogers.
better count your money while you're sitting at the table. Do you know that one?
Absolutely.
There's time enough for counting when the deed is done, or something. So I've got all the words wrong. But the point is, and it sort of flitted through my head, and the song is about cards and playing cards. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And in relationships, Maggie, you are so absolutely right. Mikey, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're so absolutely right. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. When you feel that you're in a relationship, but you're always having to make concessions, or you're always having to make the compromises that make things work, there's got to be a point where you say, oh, come on, enough of this. But because, again, we come back to this self-worth thing, because we're so lacking, so many of us, in self-worth. I've done it myself. So lacking in self-worth, so lacking in understanding, so lacking in believing who I am. We think that we have to hold on to something. We have to hold on to somebody, because what if I don't find anybody else? What if nobody else finds me attractive? What if I'm all by myself? What if? And all those things come to the fore. And sometimes on a subconscious level, you hold on to a relationship that you absolutely know isn't working. It's just not right for you. And it might not be his fault, and it might not be your fault or her fault, whoever. It might not be anybody's fault. This is where soul science comes into play, Chris. It might just be simply the energy between the two of you just is not working right. Know when to hold on, know when to fold, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Chris.
All right. Kasenaja. I know I'm so sorry if
You're butchering the name, right?
yeah. Says I would say study English and Russian, not French.
Oh, golly. Wow. Now, I want to know why not French. But you do have a point, a very strong point. I think Spanish is also a very, very good language because there are so many more Spanish speaking people in the world. I don't know if most of you know this, but I think Spanish is the language that people all over the world speak the most. There are so many Spanish speaking countries around the world. And so I think it might behove you to, with your children, to encourage them to at least have some idea of speaking Spanish. Yes, keep going.
Eric says have courage, try not to be so shy, know yourself and like and love yourself, and be kind to yourself.
Is this my daffodil man here?
That is.
Hi, darling. I have to tell you, while I've got you here, which had nothing to do with anybody else or this show, but my daffodils are sort of, the new ones are coming up. I'm so excited. I'm loving, loving, loving my daffodils. Don't worry, they're not rotting in the pots. They're all popping up at different times. So I'm very excited. Okay, Chris.
Amy says,
Hi,
I
Amy.
would say be very brave because you have a deep strength inside.
I like that. I like that a lot. It reminds me of a dream that my daughter had when she was young. She would probably be in her early teens, and she had a dream that this man with a long beard and a flowing robe was leading her up the mountainside, and the mountainside was filled with boulders and rocks, and she. I remember she woke up. This dream was so very vivid, and I think that it was actually a dream vision, because she was being told your life is going to be rough, it's going to be difficult, climbing the mountain of life is going to be really hard for you, really tough for you, but I'll lead you to the top. And sure enough, it has not been easy for her by any means. But I do believe that we all have someone who is leading us, who is guiding us. We just have to pay attention and we just have to listen. So keep going, Chris. I love this. I'm loving this show.
Eric says, thank you, my teacher. Glad the blooms are bringing light into your day and fragrance too.
Oh, they definitely are. Absolutely.
So now I'm going to scoot back up to the top of the chat because we've mentioned all the things that people have decided to share with us.
Okay.
And now we're up to sort of open questions. Is that all right?
Chris, you're in. Do you really think, if anybody out there thinks that I'm the one in charge of this show, they've got another thing coming, because I'm not in charge at all. Keep going.
Okay, so the name of You Feeling It Now, Mr. Krabs. How will I meet my soulmate?
Is this a question?
The question is, how will I meet my soulmate? The name
Thank
of the person asking it is, Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
Yeah, well, that's a very unusual name. All right, how will you meet your soulmate? Well, if you're asking the question, you definitely, definitely need to read soul signs, because it will explain to you where you've gone wrong in the past. It will explain to you the pitfalls. It will explain to you how energy works, and it will help you to, sometimes, here's the deal, sometimes we meet our soulmate, but we're either so stubborn, or we're so blinded, or we're so immersed in the past, or sort of, whatever, for whatever reason, our soulmate comes into our lives and whoosh, and off they go, and we don't even know that they're there until later on we think, oh, I missed an opportunity. So you have to be ready. And soul science will help you to sort of get to understand what it is that you are, what kind of energy you are. And it also helps to explain what it is that you are looking for and which is going to be your most compatible of relationships, most compatible of partnerships. When will you meet your soulmate? So Grey Eagle has put his hand on my shoulder so I can tell you, when you open your eyes, when you stop holding on to the past and past hurts and past, let's see, past betrayals, is what Grey Eagle is saying. So I do feel that you have had some distinct betrayals in your life in the past. And unfortunately, and naturally so, this is not criticism, we naturally hold on to the hurts and pains of the past because, you know, they in some ways they can protect us from making the same mistakes again. However, if you don't let go of those hurts and pains, and if you don't some people bring those hurts and pains into the next relationship, and then they bring them into the next relationship. There's an issue of trust, and if you keep bringing the hurts and the pains of the past into your next relationship, then you're going to lack trust in yourself, in the relationship, and in moving forward with anybody. So, my darling, you know, try if you can to let go of the past hurts, and especially the past betrayals. When you do that, when you open your eyes and you embrace the pain and you embrace the fact that, you know, you still do have a chance here, then, and I would suggest again that you read soul signs, then you will meet your soulmate. I think it will happen. You just have to be open to it. Okay, Chris.
Barb says, "Good morning, all. We so
morning,
missed
Barb.
you last Saturday. It's good to see you. I was concerned."
Yes, we're very, very sorry about last Saturday. It had to do with my daughter and my grandson, because I was definitely, you all know, I've got the story all ready to tell you all, and I was absolutely planning on doing that. And in fact, this coming Saturday, I'm going to tell the same story that I told you that I would tell you last week. But we had some family issues going on, and unfortunately, we didn't know until about, I'm going to say, 2 hours before the show was ready that we would have to be out and getting stuff ready, because my daughter actually left to go back to New York. So personal issues, I'm afraid. But I should be here next Saturday, and thank you for saying that. Not only did, you know, grateful that you miss me, but I miss doing it too. Chris.
Gregorio is giving you saludos from Venezuela.
Good morning. Nice. Thank you very much for that. And we're so glad that we have people from all over the world. Okay, let's come back to just again, what advice would you give your young self? Part of the advice that I would definitely give my 14-year-old self is, you know, I'm thinking at 14 years old, did I know anyone who had died? And I actually didn't. Well, I knew my grandmother, but I only saw her once, and that, I think that was on her deathbed. And I saw her for a very, very short span of time, and didn't even know that she was my grandmother. I realized much later on in life that that's who it must have been. You know, my family were not good at communicating. So at 14 years old, I did not know of anyone who had died. However, at 14 years old, I had a very strong, a very powerful relationship with Christ, which I still do. And I would say that I was a regular at church. I was a Sunday school teacher when I was 14 years old. And I totally totally believed in my faith. I had a very strong faith. So part of the advice I would also give to my 14-year-old self is hold on to your faith and let it guide you. And luckily, even though no one actually told me to do that, nobody gave me that advice. I did that anyway. Understand that the spirit world is all around you. Understand that those who love you, who are in the spirit world, are still with you, guiding and steering you and helping you in your life. So I think that, you know, as my grandson talks to me about Grey Eagle, and in fact, he went back to school this week, and the first thing they were talking about was the Native American culture. And he felt that, you know, that he felt good about that because he does know Grey Eagle, he knows about Grey Eagle, and he also knows about his silly grandpa, which is my father. And he often relates to that and talks about those things, and he knows that they are there watching over him. So I think that you know, a good advice for our youngsters is trust that those in the spirit world who love you are by your side and keeping you safe. Keep going, Chris.
Rosemary, is this a good time to try our experiment with the hashtag?
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Over to you.
Okay. We're asking a big favor for everyone who's listening now and will hear this and see this later. If you could right now type into your chat room the hashtag voice of the spirit world, that's going to help other people find Rosemary's show. So you're doing the # voice of the spirit world. And we're going to see if that actually helps in the algorithms that we need to play within.
So Chris, all one word, voice of the spirit world?
All one word. And I had just posted it, Rosemary. I don't think you saw it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So apparently, this is my personal hashtag. I am known throughout the world as the voice of the spirit world, and have been known throughout the world as the voice of the spirit world for at least 500 years. Just kidding. For a long, long time. So we thought that we would try this experiment. So for all of you lovely people out there, if you are writing anything about me, or if you're sharing this with your friends, or if you go to Instagram and you're writing something on Instagram, if you can learn to use that hashtag, so it is the # and then immediately after voice of the spirit world, all one word. And we're going to see what happens when people start using that, and see if it makes any difference to people being able to find us. Yes, Chris.
So many are doing it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We'll
know later.
We do love you for this. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to ask another favor. Share, 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 share. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to share. Okay, Chris, keep going.
Another name I can't pronounce. Zazis says, good morning from Sarasota, Florida. I just received news my lady passed away. Will I be moving this year? Wondering if I will be purchasing my own place.
Well, Sarasota's just up the road. I'm like 30 minutes away probably from Sarasota. It's a beautiful place. I'm very, very sorry to hear of your loss. Gosh, will you be moving soon? And that was a big loud yes in my ear. So you obviously are wanting to move or hoping to move. So this message is for you from Grey Eagle, that it's almost as if, you know, we have great loss, we have great tragedy, but it sometimes acts as a catalyst for us. It's almost as if it can open the way to new things and to new possibilities. Of course, we don't want to lose anyone in our lives. We don't want to lose our loved ones, but at the same time, this can actually give us the push that we need. I think it's going to give you the push that you need, my darling, in order to move forward with your life and to sort of, you know, when we lose someone, it's amazing because it does remind us also of how short life is. So you need to be doing whatever it is you want to be doing, don't you? Think about that. Think about how important it is for you, you know, to spend the rest of the life that you have left in a good and a positive way. So uh, shouting in my ear, yes to the moving. And so that is a really good start. It's almost as if you're standing on a springboard, ready to bounce off, ready to dive. So, but you only live up the road from me, so that's good too, right, Chris?
Cheryl's wondering, when we pass, would it be possible to go back in time and see ourselves?
Well, I think Cheryl, I like the question. My understanding is that, you know, it's a bit nerve-wracking when we pass and we step into the light, and that's what we want to do, and we want to be with our loved ones, and we want to be with God, and we want to be in that beautiful light that surrounds us. We want to be with our angels. However, it can be a little bit daunting, because when we step into the light, what does the light do? It illuminates, and so we see ourselves as we really are, and we see our mistakes, we see our past behavior. We say, I mean, I for one, I know I'm going to hate it. I'm going to, oh gosh, did I really say that? Oh no, did I really do that? And some things I'm going to be proud of, and some things I'm definitely not going to be so proud of, like everybody else. But we are shown this, our lives and our past and who we are and who we really are inside. Uh, these things are illuminated for us, not to say, and look what you did. They're not as a judgment at all. They're meant to show us this is who you are. This is who you became on your journey to, to this earth, uh, and and this is who you are. And then, do we want to continue to be this? Do we want to do more of what we were doing? So it's not about God sitting in judgment of us and harsh judgment. It's about our looking at our own selves and actually judging our own selves. And there are bound to be with every one of us things that we regret, things that we said or did that we actually can't take back. And then the next step is, so what are you going to do about all of this then? And we continue with our growth and we continue with our learning. But it's stepping into the light is not necessarily an easy thing to do, but we have our angels surrounding us, we have our loved ones surrounding us, so we have all the love in the world that we could possibly want. So even if we're feeling a bit, oh gosh, I've been, no, can they really see this about me? Did they really hear me say that? Even though we're feeling that, we're also feeling that incredible love and joy that surrounds us. So not so bad. Chris.
Joan says, good morning.
Good
First
morning,
time connecting with you.
hi.
Have been following you since your first book, and I hope your back is better.
Oh, that is so nice. That is so very nice. I gave someone a consultation this week, and one of the first things she said, even though she had so much going on in her own life and so many difficulties and so on, the one thing she wanted to say was, Rosemary, how's your back? And I thought that was lovely because, when even though you've got other stuff going on, it's so nice when people do think to sort of think about someone else. So thank you for that. My back is so much easier. If I can just say that, when my back goes out, I don't want anyone to panic or anyone to be worried too much, because this is something that's been going on with me since I was 20 years old. It is not an old lady syndrome. I was showing Reese the other day my scars. I've got they're brilliant scars. They're really wide. They go from front to back. And it's like they go from the middle of my back down to the middle of my tummy. I'm very proud of these things, you know. It's like scars are, you know, there are battle scars, aren't they? They're those things that we survived. And because I'm missing ribs and a kidney and all sorts of other bits and pieces, I know I don't look sick. And I'm not sick, actually. I'm very healthy. You never know, would you, to look at me, that I had all this other stuff going on. But it has made my back weak. So all I have to do is to bend over in the freezer just that moment too long, or that moment, you know, just whatever it is, and it's out. And so it's something I've been used to over the years. It's something that I deal with. I try not to take any medications. I have taken, what is that, CDB oil, and I have taken creams. And if anybody can find me anything that really works, that would be great, because I've found nothing yet. So thank you for asking. Let's clear that up. Don't worry about it. It's sort of, yeah, it's much straighter than it was, and it's much less painful than it was. So there we have it. Chris.
Calla says, my mom and dad, they both left very soon. I miss them so much. I wished they would still be here and meet my son of 14 months.
Oh, well, Carla, listen to me, my darling. You know, I think you know. I know you know, but Gregor has his hand on my shoulder. So here you have a message from your parents. Are you ready for this? This little shining light that you have, that you hold in your arms, that you sit on your knee, this beautiful shining light is the joy of our lives. This is a message from your parents to you. As you are the joy of their lives, please don't think we see you, we hear you. And apparently the baby's just learning to laugh, really, really have that wonderful chuckle, which they want you to know that they absolutely hear. So, my darling, you're not on your own. They are with you, they surround you, and they're enjoying this baby as much, if not more, than you are. Chris.
Cheryl, in speaking to what you were talking about earlier, says, I'm super shy, always have been. I enjoy doing things during the day, and heaven help anyone interrupting me. Yet there are times I wish for someone to go to a movie or chat with.
Yeah, I know that. But Cheryl, I do have a friend who actually doesn't like going to the movies, but we go and we went to watch the sunset the other day. I've only been home. I haven't seen her since I've been home. I've only been home a couple of weeks, but we went to see the sunset, and we missed the sunset because we were so busy talking. So, 1 minute we were talking, she was telling me a story. The next minute, the sunset was gone. So, but I know what you mean now. Um, uh, you need to, this is so hard to say this, and you're so shy, right? But sometimes you have to grit your teeth and find a place that you can go to that's close to you, that's local. I know it's difficult at the moment with COVID, but there are places. There are parks that you can go to. There are people doing all sorts of things, and you know what I'm going to suggest is, you know, go online and look locally to see what things, what activities other people are doing. And as shy and as tough as it is for you, my darling, and I know exactly how you feel, would you get off your butt and go and start and join something? Because it's the only way that you're going to meet those people that you can eventually perhaps go to the movies with, or take a walk within the park, or go have a, you know, go what, you know, what I often do with my friend. We don't do it all the time because she's got her own family here, so she's very busy. But I'll make a chicken salad and we'll take it to the beach, or I don't know, I made chili yesterday, but she can't eat chili, so that was, I had that all to myself. But you've got to, a lot of the time we do it to ourselves because we're such cowards. And I put my hand up, I'm the biggest coward of all. So I do understand where you're coming from, but you've got to just take those steps to, there might be a walking club that's close by you. There might be and spring is coming. There might be a reading club, or there are lots of places online. And look, we've had somebody call today from Sarasota. Who knows, that person who called from Sarasota today might become my next best friend. You never know, because she's only up the street from me. So you've got to reach out, and you've got to look for things to do in your own life. If you are isolated, so often it's because we're too much of a coward to get ourselves out there. Hey, I'm the biggest coward of all, but you've got to do it. Please do it. I want you to find that friend. I want you to find that person you can enjoy your life with. Please do this. Do it for me. If you can't do it for you, do it for me. Chris.
All right, we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
A question from Shaz. Dear Rosemary, I've never been in a real relationship. I had strong feelings for someone who was in my office. There was a spark, though, that didn't last long. Do you or Grey Eagle see anyone in my future?
Gosh, with a couple of minutes left, I do, but if I can just say, my darling, you're your own worst enemy. You have to, as I've just said to somebody else, you've got to reach out. You've got to become involved in something. You've got to, find something in your area that you like to do. Find something that you can join in with, as tough as it might be. Start to make friends, start to gather people around you. If you do this, nobody's going to come knocking on your door. So if you insist on staying behind closed doors, the answer to your question is no. But if you get out and about, the answer is a big resounding yes, yes, yes. Chris.
All right, there are a couple more pieces of advice here. Betta says, my advice would be to be a little more selfish and be a melancholy hand on the past.
Oh, I don't quite know what the second part is, but being selfish with yourself, as long as you're not going to walk all over everybody else in order to be selfish with yourself, is a very, very good idea. And the second, you said there was a second?
Joan says, when I was younger, I was told my foundation was sand, not hard ground. In May, I turned 70. I found I've come a long way, but I still have problems I have to work with. Spiritually, I've grown tremendously. To myself, I would say, it will get better. You are a good person. Keep your faith. Be true to yourself.
Well, Joan, I can just tell you that your grounding, your platform is not sand. You've just said your grounding, your platform is your belief and your faith. Stand on that. Know that it won't let you down. It's not going to crumble. It's not going to disappear under your feet. Stand on that ground and embrace and be joyful with who you are, my darling. Because, we only live this one life. Take it, make it the best you can make it. Okay, Chris.
I think we need to, especially because we've got a few new people on today, to say, please contact the office or go to Rosemary's website, rosemaryaltea.com, and sign up so that your name can be placed on our mailing list, because Rosemary's going to have some insider information.
Yes.
Do you want to say anything else?
Well, if you are on my mailing list, that makes you an insider. In other words, the insiders get the news first. The insiders are the ones who get the newsletter first. We are going to be, let's say, we never quite know how to just put this, but we're doing a webinar. We're getting it organized. We're sorting it out. That webinar is going to be about giving messages from the spirit world. Grey Eagle and I will be talking to the dead, who we know are not dead. But we're going to be doing this webinar. It's a limited amount of tickets, and first come, first served. So if you are an insider, you get the opportunity to sign up before anybody else does, because you get the newsletter first. please, yeah, ask to be put on the mailing list. Email us if you want to know any more about our webinars, if you want to know anything more about anything else that we're doing. If you sign up, if you and just put yourselves on the mailing list. I think if you go to the website, there is a little button which says subscribe. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to do anything. We're not going to inundate you with emails every day, because that's not our way to do that. But it will immediately put you on our mailing list, where you will get first news, first opportunities to sign up for whatever the events are that we're going to be doing. And we are going to be doing more and more events which are going to be connecting with the spirit world, giving messages from the spirit world. So if you're interested in that, race now, click on that button, or email us, email Chris, K-R-I-S, Chris at rosemaryaltea.com, and say, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. And that's exactly what we should do. Have I said anything? Do I need to say anything more, Chris?
I think we've covered everything we would like to. Just many thanks to everyone for showing up and using the hashtag voice of the spirit world.
Yes, keep using that hashtag for us. Well, we're sort of doing a little experiment. We want to see how well it works. And we're going to be using it in all of our notifications. You can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, there's another one, I know there is.
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn.
And YouTube.
On YouTube. You can find us all over the place. Go to our YouTube and see all of the stuff that we're doing there. We should be back this coming Saturday. I will be talking about a man who was, how can I say this without giving it all away? We're going to be talking about a man I came across, giving him healing in the hospital. And he was a soldier in the German army. That's all I'm going to say right now. It's a very interesting and very moving story. It shows the power of the mind. It talks about the energy that there is out there. And it talks about the power of healing also. So that's going to be our story on Saturday. Keep sending us all of your information. If you've had an experience with me, or if you have a story to tell us, please write in, send it into our office. We will be telling those stories. We might even be starting something up on Facebook, where we'll be having maybe 1 or 2 afternoons where I'll be talking and telling stories and telling other people's stories. So if you have a story to tell, and especially if you have a story to tell about any experience that you've had with me, send it in, Chris at rosemaryaltea.com, K-R-I-S at rosemaryaltea.com. I think that's it. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much, Chris, for all that you do. Must never forget to say thank you to Grey Eagle, and thank you all of you for joining in. Thank you for participating. Thank you for watching us. Keep watching, keep sharing, keep using that hashtag, keep following us. We love it. And we thank you so very, very much. Please, all of you, have a very, very blessed rest of the day. And for those of you who won't be joining me on Saturday, have a very blessed rest of the week and a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.